I must apologize in advance for the title of this is probably a little tricky. Um, it's not so much having knowledge that is bad in of itself, but rather what you are knowledgeable in. And that view comes from having an epiphany a couple of days ago, on my part, that as a person who primarily is interested in history or current events, I probably stand the biggest chance of facing the most scrutiny of my credibility. So, to give you an example, I'm talking about TYT did a video during the primary of this last election cycle. Let me say hello to Envoy and Dirk, where they were discussing how when they're amongst their peers and their friends, they'll have people who will doubt whatever they have to say about a particular candidate. And as journalists who cover that day after day after day, and even in trying to use actual things, which articles or various videos of that person saying something, they'll still have people doubt them. And they were expressing their frustration, along the lines of you wouldn't have a doctor being told by someone else, this is how I think you should perform open heart surgery. You wouldn't have a basketball player being told, hey, this is how you dribble. Let me say hello to O'Donohue and to Marco. Sometimes being too smart gets you hated. But also understand this, Marco. It's not just being hated. I've had people deny facts after seeing the proof. I've had people who will defend. For example, when I try to tell you that the current climate of relationships is awful, they go, no, it's not. No, it is because you have at least with some groups. I don't know every group statistic. I'll admit that just right off the bat. But for example, I stated that a majority of black children are born out of wedlock. I've had some people say, no, that's not true. That's not correct. Then you show them a source saying the same thing, and they'll tell you that that's outdated. So you went from that's not true to it's not current, which makes it not true for the particular time period of now. Um, and I try to show them, look, African Americans are murdering each other 9 times out of 10. If you are African American and you're a victim of homicide, you 9 times out of 10 will be murdered by someone that is of the same group as you. And they argue against that as well. And I show them the FBI statistics, and they tell me that that's okay because all the other groups do the same thing. So. Envoy says it's not surprising in this day and age since we praise the reality television and so on and so forth. Yeah, but that's kind of a thing I want you to understand, Envoy, that and I think you probably do get this already, but just for the sake of repeating it, we have a backwards mentality just with how things are viewed. Like, for example, we tell you live a just life, go to school, go to work, get married, um, do other things that are productive to society. But then, the guy that goes and kills 10 or 11 people over the course of a couple of years, like a Ted Bundy or a John Wayne Gacy, gets a movie made about them. Maybe not Gacy, but definitely, Dahmer. So there is this belief that if you do extraordinary things, good or bad, more attention should be paid to you, or is paid to you, rather. It's sad because I sit here and I keep trying to say to my various members of the stream right now and the streams in the past that what I've tried to do here is give thanks and appreciation to those that do something that I consider good. That's something society doesn't do at this point. The closest you ever get to that is if you're someone that you're related to happens to write about you in a memoir later on, and that's the first time that anyone that didn't know you within the context of your time actually hears about you. Other than that, you're pretty much, for the most part, destined to be forgotten for all eternity, and that's a scary part of reality. Envoy says, not surprising with everything at our fingertips, thanks to smartphones, technology has made as lethargic and lazy. It should be the opposite. But that's also kind of why I don't, because look, being skeptical of something is never um, a bad thing. You know, we can have people that disagree on various issues, but what a lot of people do that are skeptical of anything is go and look for more information pertaining to that topic. The guy that thinks free college isn't affordable isn't going to just say it's not affordable. He's going to look for reasons for why he doesn't think it's affordable. The guy who says we shouldn't raise the minimum wage is going to look up what would happen if we did so, or what the current, how all that would be trickled down. You go and you look into things, you investigate, you try to do your own research. And this is something that's been made easier in the digital age that people just aren't taking advantage of. But it saddens me as someone that feels that they have to feel that it was all kind of for nothing other than to just talk to the same small group of people that also are bothering to actually try and become well versed in the topic. You know, we're just this little small club of individuals who said, "Hey, look, let's try and actually not go with the grain and learn something and see what's going on." And now people are telling you, "No, don't listen to him. Don't listen to that person. He's out of his mind. He's crazy." No, he's not crazy. He's giving you, you know, some statistic or some fact to go along with whatever his thesis is. Hope I do. If you have conspiracies regarding them, I don't. You know, problem with that envoy is that more often than not, I'm more interested in relations between countries and various historical figures. So that's not out of the realm of possibility, but I'd have to have something that makes it to where it's person centered. Because I enjoy learning about the lives of individuals more than um, most of these events. Not to say that I'm adverse to learning about that too. Just either way, I'd prefer to have it centered around people that were involved. So it could happen, might not. We'll see. Um, what else is here? But yeah, I made this because I had this circumstance a couple of nights ago where do you believe that porn has contributed to some of the problems in our society? Uh, I mean, if people, the problem with even thinking that is there is a large segment of the population that isn't with somebody, and when you're not with someone, you look for other ways to satisfy yourself, whether it's taking up, you know, some new hobby or looking into porn. So theoretically, I would say no, because if people already are struggling to be with others, having that thing available anytime just to watch and kind of sort of know what the experience is like, I think has benefited some that have, you know, been alone. But I was having this experience a couple of nights ago where I said to myself, you know, I sit here, I do a lot of reading, articles online. This book I was checking out a few days ago. Let me say hello to BBS. And I thought, why is it to the point where this feels so uh, what's the word for it, regular, and at the same time strange, because you know you get used to doing certain things after a while. Like after a couple of years of playing ball, someone's going to say, "Oh, let's go play basketball. Let's go out to the new game that's coming out and make sure that we have fun with that." So those are things that after a while you just become accustomed to doing, kind of like how I was reading. But when I sat there and I thought to myself, you know, who else is going to check this out? Who else is going to look up what's in this novel? Because I have to tell you something. Out of all the books I've read in the last 4 or 5 years, just hard copy or um, as an actual thing online, none of them have had me just going, "Whoa, wow, whoa, wow," as that. And it was sad because there are many things brought up in there that you have to have some basic level of remembrance or understanding of to get the full impact of them. And I thought to myself, you know, this is so exciting to me because I know these things and it's telling me something that's kind of expanding on that and offering a different perspective. But how many people are actually going to want to know what that is? So what I'm saying here is that if I make a video tomorrow or in the next week or the week after that and I start quoting various passages of this book to illustrate some example in a video, how many people are going to say, "Wow, that he sure has quoted that book a lot of times. Let me go and see what that thing is about. If it's this impactful to his content now, I was gonna do that, except for maybe two, three people. That doesn't mean you're dumb. That doesn't mean you're ignorant. That doesn't mean your brain doesn't work. But it does mean that there is a lack of wanting to just go out and try things. I saw this thing at the store. Um, Read the back of the cover. I someone picked this up, and a lot of people, I think, in this current era, don't want to do that. They're scared of wasting their time. They're scared of not feeling as if what they're doing is all that big of a deal. And I felt that same feeling a number of times with just going out and trying to learn things. Why am I even bothering to learn this? Why am I even bothering here? And sometimes I'll go back and say, oh man, I shouldn't have, snapped at myself for wanting to do this. This is to expand my depth of knowledge and to, because I think this stuff is interesting and it's something I've never seen before that happened before. So I could at any point just go back and try to understand this. So I justify it to myself. Um, and then I think, why am I still having these doubts? So Envoy says, I do fear how the world will be, say, 50 years from now with how we deal with things emotionally and mentally, also the rise of technology and so forth. Well, Envoy, good point. I want you to understand something. Uh, there is a very disturbing movement that's going on in the U.S. and possibly in other parts of the world. It has a lot to do with reacting to things emotionally rather than logically. We had that Me Too movement stuff, for example. And look, it's awful when someone is actually, harassed in any manner. But a lot of women and a lot of guys, a lot of women were saying, "Oh man, I'm going to take the woman's side." A lot of guys were saying, "Wait a second, uh, you know, he must have done this," or they're thinking, "Oh, if I don't agree with the women, I'm going to be seen as, for the patriarchy." So they threw out the fact that the man had not actually had evidence of him doing anything yet in a lot of these cases, and just went to, yes, he did it, he did it. For example, let's pretend that this channel at one point ever gets, I don't know, 1 million subs, which, I mean, by the time that would happen, we probably have flying cars. But nonetheless, let's pretend that happens, and I am now suddenly the subject of, some actual attention from media outlets. All it takes is for a woman to come forward and say, "He touched me," for people to go and agree with her, in spite of the fact that there's no proof I did that. And when I talk, and when other people in the chat room have said, um, there's this thing about how things are going, and we have to solve it. Um, a lot of people don't think about that until it's brought to their attention. So, for example, as I start the stream with, why it sucks to be sophisticated or to have knowledge of something, you're going to have people who will say, "What's he talking about?" And then you explain, because I know of this, I'm less likely to do this. So, for example, um, a person that knows they're more likely to die in a car accident than they are to die by, a mass shooting, is going to drive, in a lot of cases, more cautiously than someone who thinks that, mass shootings are the problem, not the drivers on the streets, and that there shouldn't be any legislation to combat that topic. Okay, Envoy says, you touched on some deep there with the Me Too movement, socialist war, third world feminism. These kind of things are plaguing society in my eyes. I concur. Um, but again, those when you and I speak about this, you're gonna say, why are you against a group of women defending other women? I'm not against that in particular. I'm against a group of people defending people who are making a baseless claim, um, just for the sake of making it and possibly getting a money grab. Okay, Olsk says, who do? Oh, okay, I'm confused by that question. You have to break that down. Will there be any? I can't imagine why there wouldn't be. Take away, fix the problem. All women out there still isn't going to, or less. Oh, okay. I think what you're having some discussion in there with someone else. Envoy says against feminism, making all men out to be despicable beasts who can't control themselves. Yeah, and remember, Envoy. Here's another thing you have to understand: that people who are pushing that narrative have to get. Um, Unfortunately, based off of the way things are, a lot of times when any of these groups get stagnation or actually progress, it has to do with a man. You know, many of these companies that women are broadcasting their marches on are done by men, who theoretically, if they were these despicable creatures, could have chosen to just say, "Hey, you know what? You want to talk bad about us? We're gonna keep this thing off of here. We're not gonna let you stream or have your march on televised because we control the networks." If they wanted to, they could do that. I mean, if men wanted to, they could overturn Roe versus Wade. Men don't do it because there's enough men who are sensitive to the pro-choice view. That all I'm saying is there's enough to where it should be evident at this point that we're not all the same. But whatever, people want to accept certain things no matter how false they are, as I indicated earlier. No good strides would have been made in the feminist movement. Yeah, men signed in the law. The men were behind the various changes to our legislation that made women have more rights, such as the right to vote. But whatever, that's also lost on the perspective of some people in the current era. Okay, he says knowledge makes you less likely to make mistakes. I would agree with that, but I would also say that because of having knowledge, I'm more likely to become worried about certain things that someone who wasn't knowledgeable of wouldn't be worried about. The issue of net neutrality is still in my mind, whether or not we're going to be able to take back our internet. The topic of students' loan debt also disturbs me. The fact that we have an entire race group where a majority of the children are born out of wedlock. These are things that, I am knowledgeable of, and as a result, they bother me. Okay, Envoy says, think about it. Nowadays, people sell headlines. Think about the story. What's this? So, latest headline. What is the clickbait title? Uh, Dirk says, makes you notice the mistakes you made. Okay. Oh, well, I've got some things I'm planning on doing in a couple of minutes, so we're nearing the end of the stream. Um, I just really think that based off of knowing things that I feel a lot of people aren't familiar with because it's not taught to them in school, it's not put on TV, they have to go out there and look for it, that they're not as concerned. As a result, they end up having happier lives, even if it's concurrent with the degradation of those around them. Um, they're not morally wrong for not knowing something, but we're not morally right for pretending that it's not going on if we are privy to it. And that includes ignoring facts such as various statistics that I can pull up right now. So thank you for watching. I'll have something else out tomorrow. I appreciate it.